Hello, Jaguars, and welcome back to another episode of Theme Thursday. Today, we are going to be talking all about the restorative theme. If you didn't know already, we are a Clifton Strengths campus. All of our students have access to the Clifton Strengths self-assessment, and all of our students will have access to their top 5 strengths. We, on this little series that we're doing, typically we are at a tabling event on campus somewhere doing these Theme Thursdays, but since we are virtual right now, we are going to be doing them in this video series. And in this series, we invite people from across the campus to talk about one of their strengths. Today, we're going to be talking about restorative. My name is Allie. I'm the Service Learning Coordinator at the May Center, and I am a strengths enthusiast. And I'm just here to help our coaches kind of guide our guests along and really just engage in conversation. If you guys have any conversations or questions that you'd like to ask our coaches or our guests, please feel free to leave them in the comment. We'll be checking in on these periodically and responding back to anything we can. But I'd love to introduce our coaches and our guests. So if Clarissa, you'd like to introduce yourself, we'll get started with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Clarissa Tejeda and I'm the Assistant Director of Career Services at the May Center, but I'm also one of the campus's certified strengths coaches, so I'm looking forward to a great conversation today.
Hi everybody, my name is Kaylin Freese. I am one of the certified coaches on campus as well. I'm also the internship coordinator in the May Center, and I'm excited to be here today to talk about restorative.
Hi everyone, my name is Gretchen Dentists and I am the Assistant Director of Student Transition and Family Engagement, and I primarily work with freshman orientation, and my number one strength is restorative.
Wonderful. And we are so excited to have Gretchen as our guest today, and we're going to be asking her some questions. So we'll go ahead and get started with the strength itself. And people who are exceptionally talented in the restorative theme are adept at dealing with problems. They are good at figuring out what is wrong and then resolving it as well. And these definitions and a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is all done by Gallup, and you can actually download the Gallup app or reach out to the Gallup's website for all of the strengths information if you're looking to learn more as well. But we're going to dive right into this restorative theme. And, you know, restorative and your strengths in general mean different things to each individual. But I want to know more, Gretchen, about what restorative means to you.
Yeah, so for me, restorative, and like I said, it is my number one strength. So I also think about it and what it means to me in relation to my other strengths. But it really means that I want to find problems and fix them and correct them all day long. I don't necessarily always want to go and finish fixing them. I just want to get the problem out there, solve it, somebody else finish it. And so even if it's not an area that I have any business restoring, I will want to restore it and look through what those fixes could be, how it could be better, and other ways that we could make the situation more exciting, or creative ways that we can restore something. One of the things we talk about in our office, especially with our programming, is after we complete a program, my first initiative is to sit down and assess it. Even if the program went great, we can still sit down, look at it, and see how we can make it even better.
I love that. I will be totally honest with you. Before today, I did not really understand, I guess, the restorative theme. I think some of the strengths, I think some of the strengths are pretty obvious by their title, empathy or communication. Those are a little more obvious, but restorative is really interesting to me. And I read somewhere that it said, it's the courage to solve the problems. There are many people who want to run from a problem. You're looking at one of them. I am not always going to dive head first and say, oh, I see this problem, I want to bring it to light. And that's really what a restorative individual does. And we talk a lot in our strengths videos that these are things that come naturally to people. The top 5 really come naturally. And I think that's so interesting. It's not that you're always looking for problems. You're not out here saying, oh, I need to point out all of your flaws. But you have the courage to say, this is a problem and that we can fix it. maybe not all the solutions pop up in your head right away, but that you can solve a problem and that they shouldn't be feared as much. Kayla and Clarissa, what can you guys add as coaches as to how we look at restorative or understand it as an overarching strength?
So I think to me, restorative especially kind of brings a sense of calm to a team. When things are going around again, when those fires are springing up, they really just kind of take a moment, breathe, and are very solution oriented. The fact that they can really see the pinpoints, like, hey, here's the origin that we may need to resolve, and they can see it really quickly compared to others around them. And they always do keep that sense of positivity. It's like, you know what, it can be saved. Again, even if this doesn't work this first time around, it's okay. We will find the solution and we will get there. So I think that's really impactful. There's a reason why it lives in the executing theme. The fact that it really does help get the projects going on, good or bad. So I'm very appreciative on restorative because I think they are a big part of making sure things are operational because problems are going to exist. There's no way to get around it. That is the world of work. That is life. So if you have someone in your circle that has restorative, making sure to tap into that, big win.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Another ad that I will put out there is that not only courage being a part of people with restorative, but also lack of intimidation. Like they're not intimidated of a problem or a pain point, if you will, or a dysfunction in a program or a problem that arises. They really not only have courage, but also there's another word that I'm looking for, and it just escaped my mind. Courage and confidence in approaching some of those problems. And so that's just another piece to restorative that really sticks out to me is that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think, again, like Clarissa said, that calm in the storm, sometimes when a problem or a fire comes up, everybody's running around like, I cannot figure out how to fix this, or I don't even want to deal with it. I'm just like, oh no, what's happening? And so you can really lean on people who have restorative or in your teams to be that calm in the storm. Like, okay, everybody take a deep breath. We can handle this and we can find a solution. Gretchen, you guys are doing amazing work in your offices. And really, we've seen so much more come out of, student transition, like our family engagement and everything that's going on with our transfer students as well. And how has restorative really helped you maybe in your role or when you were a student? And how has it kind of really shaped to how you do your work now or how you did your work as a student?
Yes. So as a student, I had actually done my strengths in undergrad, so I knew that restorative was one of my top 5. I think it was like number 3 or so. So it has risen up as I've gotten older and gone through more education and things like that. And then, of course, started working professionally. As a student, I was an education major. And so I really used a lot of the restorative working in the classroom with the students and being able to kind of come into the classroom, assist the teacher that is the main classroom teacher and look with an outside point of view and perspective and kind of see, oh, what if instead of doing this way, you change it just a little bit to provide this experience for the students that way, kind of like in a consultation sort of format, but not only being the student in the classroom, but also being able to kind of look at it from that perspective and help the teacher as well.
I love that. That is so interesting. I think so many of our Theme Thursday conversation, and part of what we do at the May Center is we interview these professionals. We want to know about professional work, but at the same time, every student who's watching this, you don't have to wait to be a quote professional to use your strengths. I mean, we are all using our strengths, especially our top 5 every day in very different ways. And we've talked about in the past, when you are working in a team or when you are working on a class project, or really when you're looking at how you maybe handle your class load, maybe how you react to, especially if you're restorative, react to some big problems that might come up. Like all of a sudden we are working online. How are you finding solutions, and how are you, building up the people around you too? We talk a lot in strengths about how it's important to look at yourself as a team member, whether that be in your personal life, your family, or if you are a parent and you are the parent of a team, there are multiple people on that team, or in your professional role as well. This is what is so interesting about Gallup Strengths to me, is that this is not kind of a one-shot, this is your professional assessment. No, this is your personality or your assessment of how you can work well with so many people. And I think that's really an interesting perspective for our students to say, if you have restorative, you are using it right now. Like there are very many different ways, especially, and we've talked about this in all of the Theme Thursdays so far, we are online for a reason. And during this time, this is a really great opportunity to understand how your strengths react to a crisis situation or to a big change, or things like that. So I really appreciate that, looking at it from a student perspective. Kaylin and Clarissa, what else can you guys add about restorative that you think can really help students and help them attain their goals?
So the part that I will add is, in kind of going back to what was mentioned earlier, just that restorative in its name itself doesn't necessarily speak to how people use it. For students, I think when they get their strengths, and if restorative is in their top 5, this is probably one of those ones that they're just like, I don't see that one yet, or I don't think that one really fits me. I think if you read the description and you actually think about some of the things that you've done on a daily basis, or you use this time now as we go through this big challenge or this big change, to really look at how you're coming up with solutions, or how you're using this to overcome the challenge, and you're not necessarily like, why is everyone so stressed out? Like, I don't get it. Like, here's the problem. Let's just like do it and get over it. That's your restorative really shining through. That's you coming out through that strength and using that in a way that other people maybe have to work harder to do. It's a bigger challenge for them. For you, this just comes naturally. So I guess use this time and whatnot to kind of lean into and learn about that strength. Because if it doesn't seem like that one doesn't fit me, it probably does. You're just so attuned to it that you don't see it. And now is maybe the time when it's really shining through.
I would also recommend, share this natural talent with others. Given the fact that we're really, and Gretchen's already laughing, right? Because, yes. Share this because, again, as Caitlin alluded, this isn't always natural to everybody. So, ask others, tell them, hey, I'm really good at solving problems. How can I help you during this really, unknown environment? How can we maybe make a plan of action? Because this is also you, of course, doing good for someone, but also you feeding that strength and really seeing, oh yeah, this is me investing in it. I know Gretchen, especially, I'm interested in hearing the fact that our campus has been taking a lot of changes, given that summer is going to be online for us. So even the first year orientation experience for freshmen, that typically is in-person type of experience. But Gretchen's leading the charge on how to actually convert that into an online. So I would love, even Gretchen, how have you actually used that restorative to kind of walk you through that process? Because that's a big endeavor.
Yes. And like y'all have mentioned, because restorative is in my top strengths, that has been like exciting to me, whereas I know everyone is not as excited to take on new challenges like this, especially in a time of uncertainty and other negative things happening. But being able to completely pivot the freshman orientation and move it online, I've created, the checklist, and even gone as far as like, okay, here's a problem that I know we're going to have. Again, having that confidence that I can fix it, even if in the moment I don't know how I'm going to fix it, but I've like literally written down, okay, here's the problem. Okay, I'll figure out later how to fix that, but I know that it can be fixed. I just need to sit down and think about it. And then also working with my team, who obviously not everyone has restorative in their top strengths. So being able to assist them and ask them questions that help them get a little more into the restorative mindset has been really helpful, because I want our student workers and the other professional staff that I work with to also think through how to solve these problems. I don't just want to take over and solve it for them, but just kind of asking those pointed questions that help them get there, and then also help them break it down so it's not overwhelming. Because obviously, across the board, we're all overwhelmed right now, changing things, moving things, adapting, while also trying to do our regular daily business things. And so that has also been really helpful in pointing out, okay, here's the problems we're going to solve today. We're going to leave these problems for later. We will get to them and figure them out. But there's no way the first day we moved to all of us professional staff leaving campus and going home that we are going to be able to restore everything immediately.
Also, FYI, when you mentioned the fact, kind of empowering those around you to solve their problem, that's really mature, especially for restorative. Because restorative, I think people think, well, you're always going to run in and put out the fire, right? But actually having people accountable to help them solve their own, that's really impactful. So that's really cool that you do that with your team already.
Yeah, I've definitely had to step back and make myself do that. That is not intuitive by any means. I definitely want to just fix the problem and be done with it and move on. But I know as a supervisor that's part of everyone else's learning experience is what we can challenge each other with and move forward as a whole big team.
That is so amazing, because this morning I was listening to a podcast about restorative strength, and they were saying that one of the biggest challenges is that savior or hero complex, where it's like I can just fix this problem.
Mm-hmm.
I see the problem, I can name the problem, and I can just work out the solution because I feel so confident in it. Where when other people maybe on the team are having a panic about it, you're like, you know what, I can't fix it if you're panicking, so let me just focus on this. But so I think that is really interesting. And, Kaylin and Clarissa know this, and I know that you've seen some of our other theme Thursdays that we've recorded. But we talk about barriers or balconies or mature and immature strengths and how through development, and like you said, you took this assessment as an undergraduate, and as you have become a professional, leaned more into this adult reality, or as you have aged or kind of matured in your own personal life, that your strengths have changed and that these challenges have maybe become a little bit easier, things like that. But I'd like to know more, Gretchen, about the challenges of a restorative, or maybe some challenges that you've had to overcome in the past. If you want to chat a little bit about that.
Yes, of course. The first one that comes to mind is going back to moving orientation online. So while I'm really good at helping others and asking those questions, for example, with moving orientation online, there were areas where I needed IT and our online orientation company to work together and solve some of the problems that we needed solving. And so that was definitely where I hit a challenge with my restorative, because I am not an IT professional. There were some things that I just needed to explain to both of those groups, that I need the students to see this. I don't really know how to do that, so I can't restore it and fix it. I don't even have all the IT lingo to know what they need to know to fix it. But here's the solution I need to see. I'm pretty sure you can make this happen somehow or another. I don't really know how. But then it was definitely a challenge for that lack of control, and having to completely give those areas over to IT and our online orientation company and just be like, I need y'all to fix this. If you have questions, maybe I can answer them, but I don't even know that I could really answer them.
I think that's really interesting too, because I say this all the time. Man, I think strengths are interesting. I think it's cool. I think it's funny when Clarissa said, you know, you're a strengths enthusiast. I think they're cool. I think that the way people use their restorative is nifty. I'm going to go all Midwestern and use that word. It is nifty to see individuals work through, because that's true. You could name the problem. I need students to see this. I have no idea what the lingo is for IT. I have no idea how to connect you two together. And I think it's really interesting as we have moved this process online, or that we have moved our campus is online, basically, that we are discovering some of these challenges and our strengths that we didn't know before this. And what a cool way to experience them. Well, I mean, I don't think we ever wanted to learn about these challenges. This was not something we had anticipated. But really, when you're looking at, as a restorative, you want to be able to name that challenge. You want to be able to say, this is the problem. I don't know the problem. I know that this is what I need to happen. I know that this is where I need everybody else to be, or this is where what I need to make my program run. But I don't technically know what the problem is. Or like you said, naming the problems out. I think it's interesting when we do programming, and I don't know, students, if you're watching this is the reality of creating really awesome programs for students. There are problems that pop up that we would have never thought of. The room is hot. Okay, well, let's figure that. There's not, it's not a thermostat button that we can just push. You've got to call these people and figure that out. And I think it's really interesting now that these problems are problems that we've never experienced. And I think this could be a difficult time for a restorative person, because I don't know how to name this problem. This is a whole new problem. I want to find the solution, and I can tell you that there is a problem, which is also a really powerful, like you said, control. That's powerful to know that there is a problem. There are many, like, I guess, instances where you're in a group of people, everybody's like, that went great. And you're kind of like, did it? I mean, it went good. Like, there were definitely ways we can improve. And it can be, I think maybe that's another challenge for restorative. If the room is like, man, you guys nailed it. We don't need to do anything else. And you're like, well, can I just pump the brakes here for a second? I can think of some things. So I think that's really interesting. And Clarissa, Kaylin, you guys kind of know more about these balconies and barriers and what that looks like. Could you guys share with us and some of your strengths coach insights on what these barriers really could be, or challenges for a restorative individual?
Can I just ask Gretchen a question? So how much do you love it when people just ignore the problem? Pretend it doesn't exist.
Like, no.
That makes it so much worse. I would much rather people just say there's a problem, I have no idea what to do, but that is also a lack of control area, that people will ignore the problem and not ask the questions needed because they don't want to get into it. And that has even definitely been a challenge for me right now, because I'm thinking so much into the future of restorative. What is the fall semester going to look like? What ways are we going to need to adapt? But not everyone is there with me in thinking of all of those problems, especially as we were just starting through this process of getting spring classes online. My mind frame was already under my responsibilities. And what are we going to do about Jaguars? We need to finish the spring semester first before anyone else besides me is moving into the future of the problem that will be surrounding Jaguars.
I really do see restorative kind of almost similar to empathy. So like empathy, it can be really draining when it's being used in high degree, right? Same with restorative. The fact that you're surrounded with so many problems at once, it can be draining. So just sometimes taking a break. And also restorative probably is that, Allie kind of alluded to this, that they are a little more self-critical. So giving that grace to like, you know what? Yeah, I can celebrate the win here. It's okay. Because sometimes the outside perspective, maybe like, well, a restorative is never happy, right? So why do people wanting to fix it? So I think that's probably one of the challenges I see a lot, but then I even see it kind of parallel to empathy sometimes, where for that self-care, just be like, all right, I'm going to celebrate this win. It's okay. We did a great job here.
And I have heard that, and I'm interested, Gretchen, on your kind of perspective that when somebody knows, somebody on the team has restorative, they automatically seek them out for problem solving. But that can be very draining and be difficult to not be negative sometimes. When you have so much negative, like, I have all these problems every day, day in and day out, that a restorative individual can find it very difficult to remember the positive or to take a step back in it and like Clarissa said, celebrate those wins. Do you see that sometimes, Gretchen, in being a restorative person?
Yes, I definitely do. I definitely have to take a step back and think about, that program, that event, that assignment went really well, but I'm always thinking about how can I improve it. So for instance, for when we are in the middle of an in-person orientation session, I have my clipboard with the schedule and all the information I need. And at first I was writing down, of course, problems that need to be solved before the next orientation happens. And then I quickly realized that, like, I need to not just focus on the problems. I also need to focus on the positives. And so then I kind of like divided up the piece of paper that I had. Okay, problems here. And then it started out with like kudos for my team down below of, I saw this orientation leader doing this. And so I would write those down. And then that also eventually transpired into our debrief for orientation. So what the orientation leaders do is they have two pieces of paper that we use for debrief. One has a smiley face on it, all the good things that happened, and then one has a sad face on it, all the problems, issues that came up during the day.
I love that. Sorry, Allie, I'm just going to jump in only because you mentioned the barrier labels. The barrier label on my little card here for restorative is that people with restorative are perceived as negative because of association with problems. And so building the positive into the feedback, as well as incorporating, like, here was a pitfall, maybe we should consider this as well. I think that's amazing. Very, very mature in the restorative strength. And so such a cool idea.
Yeah, that came from another staff member whose positivity is in there.
Nice.
Look at those strengths working together. Oh, I love it. I think that is such, we already know Gretchen's amazing. We know that. We say it all the time. But that is really something that's incredible. And when you're working in a team, that can be very valuable because that builds really great relationships as well. It is sometimes very difficult, I think, and everybody knows this about me, well, everybody, but the people on my team who it's sometimes difficult for me to be like, what is positive today? Like, I want to be excited. I have woo. I want to be positive, but man, I'm taking a lot of hits. Like, I need somebody else to point out the positive. And my team knows that. They know it, and they will tell me like, okay, but this went really great. I'm like, okay, true. That's a good point. But that does build such a great relationship with your team. And like Kaylin just said, like, what an incredible leadership style or leadership skill that you've developed utilizing your strengths, knowing that not every part of Restore is always great and that you have to adapt to your strengths and adapt to your team. That is, whoa, look at you. Way to go. And when we talk about teams, we have said multiple times on the same Thursday, our goal and our jobs are really based in collaboration, and Gretchen, I know I can see your work all the time, most of it is collaboration with other individuals, not just professional staff, but student staff, for our orientation and that's so many different students are involved at so many different levels. It's not like we just have we of course are bringing our freshman class, but we are considering our transfer students, we are considering our military associated students, we're considering our military affiliated, we're considering so many different groups of people. And that means we're talking to so many different offices and all that as well. So what are some tips that you have for those who are collaborating with a restorative individual?
Yeah, so I think to start off with, if you're, putting on a new initiative or continuing an already established program is taking that time to debrief how it went last year so that people who do have restorative as a strength are not frustrated that it feels like, to me, a lot of times that it's just started with, oh, we're planning this program again for this year, but like, what happened last year? We need to talk about exactly what went well, what went wrong, more specifically, before we're able to talk about what we're going to do this year. And maybe it's even sometimes it's not directly related, but how can we better support this subgroup of students on our campus? And taking the time at the beginning of that process to really think about what we have or have not done in the past, or even using a SWOT analysis, because that also helps balance the positives and the negatives for everyone at the table. And then also another tip for collaborating with restorative is making sure that there are ways for them to use their strengths. So they are not just putting on the same program as last year with no room or boundaries to change it. Because I know that's another place where I've had challenges is when I get kind of bored because I'm not using my restorative strength and I'm not able to improve things and restore them because of parameters put in place. And so that would be another tip that I would have, allow them to be restorative.
I love that. And I think, sometimes they're asking this collaborative question just because, pure selfish reasons. We work with so many different people. We want to learn how to work with your strengths better too. And I definitely saw Clarissa's little business heart get all excited when you mentioned a SWOT analysis. I saw it. I can see the screen. But that is so important. And something that we don't always consider, especially when we're thinking, okay, we're going to do this program, or maybe there's a new leader in this program. They're like, well, I don't want to go over all the negative things from last year. Oh, well, it's kind of like important to, at least put them in at some point. And you can, like we just said, you can always, have positive impact and positive results, but there's always going to be this conversation that has to be had of, maybe nothing went poorly because we didn't challenge ourselves at all. We didn't change. We did the same exact thing over and over. And that's why there are no challenges per se or problems that popped up. And that's, like you said, can get boring, because we did the same thing over and over again. And therefore there are no problems in that way, but we're not growing either. So we really have to take that as problems are not negative. And like I said, I am not somebody who runs towards a problem. I have a tendency to be that person that's like, whoa, this is a problem. I don't even know. I don't know what to do. I'm totally panicked. They've seen, somebody I live by my calendar and my schedule, and I'm just like, when something pops up out of nowhere, I'm like, let me give me a minute to reassess the situation. But it takes me a lot longer than it would somebody who's restorative who's like, okay, problem, let's deal with it, or do we need to deal with it right now? Maybe we can move along. But I think that is such an interesting perspective of saying you still have to talk about, we still need to talk about the problems that have come up. This is not something that we just I just want to bring such a positive aspect or environment around us, but that problems are not negative. They're just ways to improve. They're challenges, but they're ways to grow. Clarissa, Kaylin, I know you guys are experts in all things. Who am I kidding? But specifically with strengths, where do you see that collaboration process, or where do you see that it could be difficult for a collaboration to be successful with somebody who has restorative? Kaylin, if you kind of want to start that one off.
Sure. Yep. The part that I think people should focus on when collaborating with folks who have restorative is their creativity that they bring to it. So if you don't look at what's happened, you can't move forward in a way where, Allie, you were talking about this, where you grow. And I think people with restorative bring a sense of creativity so that your event or your program or your future event, whatever it may be, it's solved in a way where it's going to bring more people. It's going to be better. And that creative aspect to it, I think if you focus on that, it kind of gets around that negative side of perspective, I should say, or that barrier label that comes with people who have restorative. And so I challenge people when collaborating with someone with restorative, focus on that part of it, the creativity that they're going to bring to the table, the perspective that's going to make your event or your program grow and in a way that is impactful.
And I would say really think about when to collaborate with restorative. Don't bring them always at the end when it's like, oh, this went wrong, fix it now. Because again, they'll be really good at that, but how can you be proactive with this strength is really important. You know, especially when Gretchen was mentioning, again, those collaboration, having those conversations beforehand. So like, for example, Laura. So Laura is our assessment coordinator on our team, and she really is one of those that she naturally will see that problem like, hey, have you thought about this? She will simplify a process so much smoother than any of us will. I will overcomplicate something really quickly because I can, and I'm very talented at that. Well, Laura would just like, hey, no. Let's just go with this. And I'm glad that we have those conversations with her from the start because it really does streamline our workflow. So making sure to be mindful of that, you know, how do you involve them with the entire process? Or again, even if it's just from the kickoff to make sure that you can avoid some of those problems and go on in the right direction.
I love that. I feel like this has been a great conversation. Again, when this day started, I did not know much about restorative. I will be honest. It was one of those that I was like, what is... and like Kaylin said, most students might relate to this as well if they do have restorative, like where, how, what does that mean? And this is why we do Theme Thursday. It's you know, a great opportunity for everybody to learn about. There are 34 strengths. I mean, come on. You've got to have conversations about all of them to really understand and to work better with your teammates. So, or with your teammates, or even, you know, we've talked about strengths in your personal life as well. You know, there are strengths books on parenting and leadership. And, you know, that's what we're really trying to make our students into this well-rounded, holistic approach to education to be the very best that they can be. When you are the very best, it's because you know your strengths, your weaknesses. There are some of my strengths that I'm like, you know what? Sometimes a weakness that is definitely not always the greatest way to be. And so I think that's a really, really great part about these Theme Thursdays. And Gretchen, we are so thrilled that you were able to join us. I appreciate your insight, but again, I'm just selfishly want to learn about you and your strength and how we can work together. But it really is such a special part of our university that we've taken this initiative, and it is really special. I think a lot of our students have not yet gotten the chance to take their strengths assessment, which don't worry. We're going to talk more about that in a second. We want all of our students to take our strengths assessment. There are also several companies within San Antonio and nationally and internationally that use strengths in their campuses or in their companies because, like we were saying, when you know yourself and you know the people around you and what they're naturally intuitive about, it can really build powerful change, powerful growth. And I think we've been seeing that a lot right now. We were just talking about before we started this Theme Thursday that this is a wild time. This is not where we expected to be. This is not what we expected to happen. These are really big pivots and changes and full, you know, go full circle. But that when we know, hey, I'm going to reach out to this person who has restorative, and you'll see throughout campus, or as you kind of grow into your professional roles, or as you are maybe joining student organizations, there are several committees. There are several ways where you will reach out to those who you know their strength is valuable at that time. I cannot even tell you how many times, like Clarissa just said, Laura has restorative in our office. I will pull Laura in on something, or I will pull Clarissa or Kaylin because I know their strengths. I don't have strategic or those aren't very high for me. So I try to seek out people who have strategic or includer. Includer is very low for me. We just had this conversation. But so seeking those people out to build really amazing teams, because we do need our community. And in a time like this, even more than ever, is as we make these changes and as we adapt, we have to build that community, and we build our community by our strengths, understanding that I need this person, or I want their insight on this. So Again, Gretchen, thank you for being here. We are so thrilled that you were able to share with us and share so wisely. So you're just amazing. We told you that late.
Having me.
Anytime. Okay. Wow. Next theme Thursday is intellection. Once again, not one of mine, but we will have a special guest with us as well to talk all about intellection next Thursday. If you are interested in learning more about your strengths, you can go to tamusa.edu/Jaguar strength. There you'll find also the JAG Sinks for Strengths 101 and Strengths 201. And that's where you can go to learn more about your strengths, to take the Clifton Strengths Assessment if you haven't already, or maybe if you've forgotten your codes or forgotten your passwords or need to get linked up to that. No worries. Go to that website. Feel free to reach out to any of our Clifton Strengths coaches. We have 2 of them here with us today, like they said, but there are several coaches on campus who are open for appointments to talk through your strengths, to understand, or walk through with you so that you can understand how they play with each other, how they play against each other, and how you can really, like we said, Gretchen is an amazingly mature strength, and how you can mature your strengths as well. So go to that website and check that out. You can follow us at tamusa.edu/maze, maze@tamusa.edu, or on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. We're on all the things. But if you have any questions, any comments, any insights that you'd like to share, not only with us, but with your fellow Jaguars as well, feel free to leave any comments on any of those platforms, and we will see them and get those answered, or any questions or comments. So if you just want to share some insight to your strength and how you use it, we'd love to see that as well. So feel free to add that on there. And that's going to be it for our Theme Thursday today. I am so thrilled to have you guys here. Thank you again for just providing so much insight to the conversation.
Thank y'all. It was a great day. So hopefully everyone can learn a little bit more about this strength and they can tap into it even more.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right. Bye, Jaguars.
Alrighty, Jaguars. Well, we will see you guys next Thursday. Thank you.